Welcome to another Ballarat Clarendon College podcast where we're featuring an Old Collegian. Tonight I actually just want to read out, before I introduce our Old Collegian, a little bit about her. And this was in the spiel when she was picked up in the AFLW draft. Tenacious inside midfielder and tackling machine that has been used as times as a tagger in Richmond's VFLW team. Woodward is a natural leader and hard worker, a part of the Richmond women's program since its inception, and has been a big driver of the club's culture. Welcome, Alana Woodward, AFLW Tiger, to our podcast today, and thanks for spending some time with us, Woody.
Thank you, Mr. Henderson, or Roscoe, as I often refer to you. And thanks, Mel, for joining us too. So good to see you.
My pleasure.
Yes, as Woody said, welcome to Melina Ciavarella, a current Year 12 student, finishing up Year 12, who is a very keen footballer, was a part of the Ballarat Rebels girls team this year before the COVID virus hit and put a shutdown to it all. And also a mad Richmond supporter, and a very excited Mel for this weekend, but also excited to speak to Alana about her journey through the AFLW program. So Woody, you're the oldest of three children who came to college.
Yep.
Obviously you've got other siblings as well, but you're the oldest of the three who came to college from Swan Hill. You've always been an outdoorsy sort of person. You had a love of horses and working with animals on the farm and so forth. How did you find that when you came to Ballarat, other than Ballarat being cold? How did you find the move from Swan Hill?
Yeah, so grew up on a farm, always been a farm girl, and I found it pretty challenging initially. I didn't want to make the move to boarding school. In Year 9. So I think at the time I was 14, turning 15. At the time, school wasn't probably a priority for me, as you touched on. I used to ride horses a lot and go away competing on weekends, and sometimes that would go into Friday and Mondays off school, and most teachers would cover their ears at the thought of that. But it was probably Mum that really pushed the fact that I did need an education, and to do so I probably needed to move away from some of the distractions. So it was a pretty quick decision. Basically a couple of months before school was meant to start, I'd be making the transition down to Ballarat, and first probably 2 days were horrible. I thought, this is just awful. I'm in the boarding house and all these other people around, and it's normally just me and wide open paddocks and horses and dogs, and that was my lifestyle to that point. So it changed pretty quickly, my perspective on it. I soon realised that I loved it, and the opportunities, I guess, were pretty endless as far as sport. I didn't have a lot of chance to play sport back in Swan Hill, just given the fact that I was out on the farm, and straight after school would be on the bus and over the border to New South Wales, and a bit of a bus ride home, and from there I'd be back on the farm. So just to be able to, I guess, have a bit of routine and structure that boarding school presented, and I'm sure Mel knows all about this now as well. After school, I was like, oh my gosh, which sport do I pick? Like I can pretty much have a go at anything. It's just amazing. So, but not only that, I think the big change for me was just actually loving learning. Like I just had never, as I said before, really enjoyed school, and it was never a priority for me. But coming to school at college, and I'm not just saying this for the point of the podcast, but the big change was just the environment. It was actually cool to learn, whereas previously no one really cared if you were thriving at school or if you're doing your homework or things like that. So that was a massive shift for me, and I actually had to work really hard when I first got to school there. I was probably quite behind the other kids in my year level, and had to put in the hard yards and do a bit of extra stuff to catch up initially. And then, after that, I really enjoyed it. And to this day, I still say, like, probably year 11 and 12 are my most memorable years of my life, and the most enjoyable, really.
Yeah. And that's a common story we hear, especially from the boarding community, where it's actually cool to learn as compared to cool to not learn. So, Woody, One of the things that made you stand out from your peers, in my humble opinion, in your final year was your willingness to put yourself out there, to try new things, to get out of your comfort zone. A couple of examples was after years of me hounding you, you finally relented and joined the rowing program in your final year. And I'll let everybody know, went on, I think it was your 5th ever training session. We put you into the girls' first crew in the bow seat. In the 6th session, you were in the stroke seat, and that's where you stayed for the year and went on to win Ahead of the Lake. You also were in the school musical that year. What drove you to actually try these things in these opportunities, and what advice would you give any young students listening today?
So I think for me, again, it was just, I didn't really have exposure to these opportunities before. So I'm actually probably someone that's pretty conservative and introverted by nature. And I find that I'm constantly challenging myself to put myself out there and try new things. And there's sort of a sense that the more that you expose yourself to something, the less scary it is. So apart from the fact that, okay, amazing opportunity, have a bit of fun, learn some new skills, just do something different. I guess in my world in Ballarat, I didn't have, I guess, a biological family to go home to or something to do, after school. So a lot of the boarding community would really get involved in extracurricular stuff outside of the normal school hours. And I think, for me, it was just, okay, how much can I fit into my day and what can I do while I'm here? And at the end of the day, your parents invest quite a bit of money in you to have that opportunity. So I wanted to make the most of it. And I think everything that I did have a go at, I really enjoyed. And that's why I continue to try and pursue different things.
Yeah. What drove you to join the musical? Like, can you sing or play an instrument?
Everyone can sing, but just not well. And I'm one of those people, actually, I love singing, but I wouldn't say I'm great at it, but when you're involved in a chorus, sometimes the better singers can drown you out. And I think I was a bit, lucky. What drove me? The musical that year was actually called Urinetown. So it wasn't, I guess, the most sort of, I'm not really sure why I wanted to. I think I did have a couple of friends at the time that were a bit musical and more dramatic, and a few of the boarders were trying out for the auditions, and I just thought, why not? Like, it's there, you might as well. I was never involved in the arts previously. It's probably not a talent of mine, but why not? Give it a go. What's the worst that could happen? You say, you don't get in, or
there was it in the local paper, or there was a flyer somewhere that the Richmond VFLW team were trials in Bendigo coming up. Now, 2017, you were, what's that put you? Nearly 28, 26, 27, 28, somewhere there. And you're back on the family farm. You've got a house. You're in the business, and everything's pretty comfortable. But in typical Alana fashion, you give it a go. What can happen? They can tell me I can't get in. So you go to Bendigo to the tryouts. Can you talk us through the tryouts a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So again, it was probably something that it actually took a couple of people to give me a bit of a push and a bit of a nudge and say, oh, how about this? And again, I was like, oh, why not? So I went along. It was 42 degrees. End of November, there was about 300 girls registered, and I think they could take 200.
So after the trials, how did you think you went, and did you think that you would get a call up?
No way. I think I was really just, it was like I was just in a daze the whole time. I was like, oh my gosh, there's there was a couple of girls that had signed with the VFL club at the time. So there was their new recruits, there was a coaching team and some other staff as well. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is incredible to be a part of. And the end of it came, and I was like, wow, another experience. And I thought that would be the end of it. And got a call the next day. And I thought initially it was just like a sort of a thank you for coming sort of a call. And they they actually said, we liked enough of what we saw to invite you onto a couple of trainings in Melbourne. And just went on from there, sort of kept making the cut luckily, and ended up in the first VFL team.
So first VFLW season, you're up against, of course that runs through the winter period. So all of the girls who are playing AFLW are playing VFLW at that point in time. So you're up against the likes of Daisy Pearce and one of the stalwarts of women's football. I'm not sure if you know Meg Hutchins as well. And you're running around on the park with these girls. Did you have to pinch yourself and say, what's the little girl from Swan Hill who didn't really think footy was in her horizon, in her future? What am I doing here? Did you have to pinch yourself?
Yeah, 100%. Like you've mentioned a couple of the girls, but there was other players. Like I think one of the first players that I was matched up on was Emma Carney, who's a league best and fairest. It's mind blowing. I think, it was pretty, I wouldn't say nerve wracking, but it was definitely a pinch yourself moment. And it makes you step up pretty quick and think, okay, well, you've got to stop thinking, okay, these are my idols, and quickly flick the switch to this is my opposition now. So, had to really back yourself in and keep telling yourself, okay, you're here because you're good enough, and you're here for a reason, and now it's just about playing footy.
Well, it's pretty clear when you look at your performances and some of the other accolades you've been given through the VFL, and I'm just going to read these out so I don't get anything wrong. You were part of the VFLW Tigers, the Richmond 2019 Leadership Group. You were recognised for role modelling Richmond's core behaviours and values through the nomination in the club's annual peer-voted Bunjil Award. You also received the 2018 Richmond VFLW Players Player Award, voted by your teammates. So you must be very proud of those achievements to start with, but also, was the carrot there for AFLW? Were you thinking you were going to get there?
Firstly, obviously, you're always extremely humbled any award you win, but especially the ones voted by your peers. So very special to me. I think the carrot was always there. Did I think I would get there? I'm not too sure. You like to think, you hear a lot of stories, people say, okay, young athletes have these goals and ambitions, and they're just, they might write them on their mirror, and they're super strong, headstrong to achieve that. And yes, I had that goal, and I had that urge and that drive to get there. Did I think it was realistic? Gosh, it took a lot of work to get there. Like I honestly was not at the level for a very long time.
So with the AFL draft, take us through the process. Did you have to nominate or?
Yeah, absolutely. So pretty much every VFL player is encouraged to nominate, regardless if they've been contacted by an AFL list manager or not. So I was pretty lucky. I'd nominated for the draft, and I was actually picked up as a pre-draft selection.
So your first game for the Richmond AFLW team, up against Carlton, my mob, the Blues, and unbeknownst to everyone, but probably at the time you had an inkling, this is going to be the toughest job in football that year, was tagging Maddie Prasparkas, who went on to win the league medal that year. And I sat and watched that game, and I thought you did a cracking job on her, because I think you were only on her for the first half and she only got 6 possessions. They took you off her and she tore the game apart after that. But what was it like being out there when you're running out for your first AFL game?
Yeah, well, firstly, Maddie Paspakis, what a jet! Like she's just incredible, and she's so young. She's got such an amazing career ahead of her. But that day, or I should say that week as a whole, was super. It was chaotic. Like it was full on. It was in your face. There was a lot in the media. There was a lot of hype. Obviously, Richmond has a massive following. For their men's team. And I think most of those supporters jumped on the back of the women's team as well. They were all pretty excited. When AFL season comes around, there hasn't been footy on TV for quite a while. So most people are itching to get a footy fix, even if it is women's footy. So there was a lot of hype and media and a lot of things that I'm not used to. So it was also a lot of fun. Like it was really nice to have those moments that you're just with your teammates and you're just at the club doing your final training sessions, and you could really sort of absorb and embrace those times and those memories. And super special to me still to this day.
You've talked about wanting to set up or improve what's currently there, and that takes me back to your earlier comment about when you started at Clarendon College, watching the girls footy and seeing the girls above you. So that cycle continues, and you've taken that with you and doing a wonderful job there. Yeah,
I think that whole, I guess, notion that you're a product of the five most important people around you. So I think I've been really lucky wherever I've gone so far in my life. I've had pretty special people around me, and as I said before, they just tend to rub off on you. So I think, it really starts at school. I had some amazing teachers and coaches at that level, Bruce Sarah with rowing and Cuzzo, as I mentioned before, and they're still, I still reflect on some of the lessons that they've taught me and some of the memories that stay with me. So I think people underestimate how important it is to take on advice and information from their teachers and their coaches and the people that are around them. They might not always agree with it, and that's fine, but I think if you can just be open to it and use and take on board what works for you, then it's going to put you in good stead.
One other thing, you said earlier that you quite enjoyed coaching younger girls back in your hometown. After your career, would you ever consider coaching again?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. And I think I'm someone that probably learns by teaching. So I learn a lot about the game of footy. I'm quite like a deep thinker, and I probably overanalyze things a little bit too much at times. But I think that's a part of the coaching side that I really loved. I really liked getting into the nuts and bolts of it, and it taught me a lot about the game and a lot about how to relate to players and now my teammates by actually putting on the coach's hat. So you never know, one day, I might pick it up again.
Alana, thank you so much for your time. I think listening to you tonight's made me realise even more just what a wonderful role model you are for young women out there, whether it be currently at school looking to do a performing arts performance, whether it's a young footballer, whether it's a businesswoman, whatever it is, you're fitting so much into your life, and everyone at our school is so proud of what you've been able to achieve. And we watch, I watch every game, and everyone talks every game. And as soon as I asked Mel if she wanted to be involved in this, she knew who you were. So thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure chatting to you tonight.
Thanks, Ross. Really, really flattering, and great to be joined by you both. And you never know, once this lockdown's over, hopefully I can come up and see you all in Ballarat.
And Mel, thank you so much for giving up your time tonight in a very hectic phase of the year. We're heading into exams, and go the Tigers for you on the weekend.
Yes, thanks for having me.